Good evening. Well, I'm out here in the shop and I want to just show you this $20 scope that I picked up today at the Jewett City Flea Market. It's a Tektronix RM like rack mount 564 storage oscilloscope, and I ran it through its paces real quick. I cleaned up the switches a little bit, but I didn't spend a lot of time on them. It seems to work okay, but there is a problem with my poor eyesight. I didn't see it in the at the flea market, and that is you've got a type 3A72 plug-in over here, and you also have a type 3A72 plug-in over here. So you do not have a time base, and if I had known that, I would not have bought it. So I do get my traces. Everything focuses fine, and positioning controls all work and everything else, but it is there's no sweep. In other words, unless you inject a sawtooth wave into this plug-in here in order to get the sweep, you're not going to get a sweep out of it. Now, why they would do that, I don't know. I looking on the internet, and the ones I've seen have time base generators in them. This is they're both identical. Channel 1 and 2. At first, when I was looking at it, I thought it was a 4-channel scope, but I was looking at it without my reading glasses in the back of the car. So had I noticed that, I wouldn't have gotten it, simply because I'm not about to invest in a time base to plug into this. But I'm going to hang on to it, and I'm still going to get rid of the scopes, the HP 180A scopes that I got at the ham auction. I'm still going to get rid of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fire this up. I got to put my clip leads on the back because it takes a round 3-prong plug. It's not a computer plug that goes in this. And we'll fire it up. So hang on a minute. Okay. The fan is a little noisy, but I'll tell you, when you shut this thing off, that fan goes on and on and on and on for a very long time. It's a vacuum tube scope, which I was not aware of. Okay. Alright, that's the screen illumination. Alright. I got my function generator in here. And I cleaned the switches and stuff, so I moved everything around. It's a storage oscilloscope, as you can see. You can do the top half or the bottom half. Hang on a minute. I gotta get these controls. I gotta get my magnifying glass, because I cleaned all the controls and everything. I moved them all over the place. Okay, I am driving the horizontal with my function generator. No certain frequency. And I put it into channel A here. Let's see, are we on channel A? No, we're on channel B. Let's put it on channel A. Now you can see there's no horizontal sweep, because this is it's not a time base. It's just an amplifier, a dual trace amplifier, type 3A72, just like this one here. Now, for some reason, this one isn't working too good. I'll put it down on here. These controls, I cleaned them with CRC. I did not put deoxide on yet. It's got a very bright, very, very bright trace. See? The focus is very sharp. Okay, so as you can see, these controls are erratic. Actually, I think it might be the BNC. Okay, I'm not too familiar with storage oscilloscopes, but what I got here is a vertical. Actually, I had a bad cable. A Chinese cable, which I ordered from eBay last year, was giving me a lot of intermittent problems right here, and this is an old cable that a good friend of mine gave me. So, as you can see, there is no horizontal drive because there is no time base, okay? And I'm getting the vertical deflection as I set the volts per division, okay? Now, it's still a little erratic because I did not clean these with deoxide. I just sprayed these with CRC cleaner. So I'm going to do all these with deoxide. I did use deoxide on these switches, the AC, the DC, and the ground. I did use that because these are slide switches in here. But I didn't do deoxide on these because these have got the wafers. And when I get the money up, I'm going to, it's very expensive. I didn't realize the D100L with the little syringe on it is like $26 or something like that for a little bottle. It's a lot of money. So if I use the deoxide in there, I'm going to be spraying on the phenolic wafers, and that's not really good. Although the band width of this scope is much, much lower than I thought it was. Much, much lower, but that's governed by the plug-in. This is a type 3A72 plug-in. So it depends on the plug-in you put in here, determines the bandwidth of the scope. But anyways, I'm going to try to show you the storage feature of this scope. But I'm not too familiar how to use it. So I'm going to put it on storage now, and then I'm going to remove the vertical signal. So I'm going to put it on storage on both the upper and the lower. We let it build up. I guess that's what you're supposed to do. And now we'll remove the vertical signal. We'll turn down the intensity to get the dot off of there. And as you can see, I can move the positioning controls. It's not moving up and down, okay? This is storage on the upper and the lower. All right, if you want to erase it, you just flip it over to here and that erases it. And it takes it right out. And from what I've been seeing on YouTube, I think this is normal. It's a normal like a burn-in, but it goes away after a while. So your intensity control doesn't have anything to do with the storage feature. So we can shut that off, put up the intensity control again, because we got a little dot here, because we have no sweep. Now if you want to get sweep, What I got to do is to connect to the amplifier, which in this case is the horizontal amplifier. This is taking the place of the horizontal sweep. It is a sine wave, but normally you'd use a sawtooth for a scope sweep. But I'm just doing this just to show you that this scope does not have a time-based generator. So we're going to get rid of this scope down here and the one on the top of the shelf, the HP. April 21st, the ham auction, and we'll put this up on the top shelf. And who knows, I may locate a time-based generator for this, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because the bandwidth is much, much lower than my other scopes that I've got here. For instance, the Tektronix Type 321, which I got off of eBay but did not make a video of it, that I got last fall, I believe it is. And I completely rebuilt it, replaced all the electrolytic caps and everything in it. And it is only I believe it's a 6 megahertz scope. That's all it is. But it works quite well. Transistorized, but it's germanium transistors. And then, of course, the Navy oscilloscope, which is 5 megahertz, all solid state, of course, and you've seen many videos on this. So what I'm going to do is, even though this is a 50 megahertz scope, and it's dual band, and it works quite well. I don't have it plugged in right now. So none of these are plugged in right now. So even though it is, I'm going to actually see if I can sell it because it does work. As you can see, I went to the channel 2, and I'm getting my sweep. So, and the centering is working quite well. The positioning is working quite well. So, from what I've been seeing, this scope is supposed to have a time-based generator, not 2 amplifiers. So in other words, it's a dual-tray scope, not a 4-tray scope like I thought it was because it had 2 of these in there. So with my eyesight, of course, I didn't pick that up right away because I wouldn't have even offered the guy $20 for it, which is what I paid for this. But it does work, as you can see, and there's plenty of brightness. Focus is nice and sharp. And I just got to get a time-based generator and maybe a better plug-in for this, but it's no big deal. It'll come in handy for something, but it is a very tall scope. Being 7 inches versus 5 inches for the HP. The HP is completely transistorized. The Tektronix isn't. So anyways, I'm going to be pulling out these plug-ins and spending some time cleaning the switches better, but most of my problem was not so much in this. It's a little bit in here, as you can see. But I'm not running any signal in here. There's no vertical signal, but see, there's a problem in here. The channel A is fine. Channel B is erratic. It seems like the main switch is okay. It seems to be in here. Now, these are vacuum tubes. One of the tubes is 6AU6, quite common tube in televisions that I've worked on years ago. So it could be a tube, but I would say that there's a problem in this switch here. Let me pull this plug-in out. I'm going to shut this scope down, and we'll look at the plug-in here. Take a little bit of a look with my macro here, but I'm going to set this. I'm going to set this up so it's not in the way here. Okay, here's the inside of the plug-in. Right down here, this white switch right here is the bottom channel B, or channel 2, is the one that's erratic. And you can see the potentiometer turning right there. Now, I'm going to hit that with deoxit. I'll do that off camera. But these got phenolic wafers, and, you know, I really need to put it on with like a toothpick or something. And I have to get that D100L, I believe it's called. It's the red stuff in the bottle. But I didn't realize it was so very expensive. Must have gold in it. And they do sell it on eBay. It's like about $8 or $9 a tube. It comes in a tube like a toothpaste. I guess I could get that because I wouldn't really be using all that much. But anyways, there's a lot of controls here that need cleaning. The DC balance is off a little bit. Whenever you change your volts per division settings, okay, this is a vacuum tube based oscilloscope, as you can plainly see. So it really should be run for about a half an hour before you try to do anything with it, let alone calibrate it, which I don't have the equipment to do. So your volts per division, your DC balance is, you can't make any adjustments on this until this is fully heated up. That also goes for the 321, the Type 321 transistor scope, the Tektronix I showed you on the other side of the bench here. Even though that's transistors, it's germanium, and germanium transistors are, you know, very leaky, and they change. So you really need to run that for a long time before the trace will stabilize. Once the trace is stabilized, and then when you vary this volts per division, you should not get any variation, vertical movement at all on the baseline, no signal being fed in. What you do is you short out the input. What this does is grounds out the input. So that you get no signal coming in here, and you adjust your DC balance control right here so that wherever you move this, that line is rock solid. And that goes for this too. So what I'm going to do is to spray these switches, and like all Tektronix scopes, they're made really well. And there are some electrolytics in here, but from what I have been reading, electrolytics on Tektronix scopes rarely have to be changed because they made electrolytics, they made better quality capacitors back then. That's from what I've been reading and seeing on, I believe it was YouTube videos. So you don't really have to replace any capacitors unless they're bad. Now, these types here, these are in pretty good shape. They're not leaky. In other words, they're not leaking any material from them. We don't know what the ESR is. But I'm not too worried about this. The bandwidth of this plug-in is not good at all. So I just want to get these switches cleaned up so that I'll have a stable trace. So I'm going to be doing that, and maybe if I'm very careful, I can gently try to clean these up, but with the deoxid, you know, and move the switches around a lot, quite a bit, and maybe get things cleaned up a little bit so that it won't jump all over. Alright, so I cleaned up all the switches with deoxid. On this one, I didn't go over this one again. And actually, most of my problem was that bad cable. But there was instability when I touched this. So hopefully it's going to be alright. I did not hook it back up again. It's a pain in the neck to hook it up because I got to use my clip leads on the back. And I'll show you. It's got a connector on the back that I don't have a plug for. It's like an extension cord type, but it's round. Alright, 3-prong. I've got an extension cord, but it won't fit in there, and I'd have to cut it down with a razor blade, and I'm not about to do that. I've seen these kind of plugs that go into these years ago, but I no longer have that stuff. Another thing, too, is on this fan, when you shut this thing off, this fan goes on for just about forever. I mean, talk about good bearings and stuff. It just keeps going and going. I just spun out with my finger, and it's going and going. It goes for a very, very, very long time, several minutes after I pull the power on this. So, anyways, yeah, it's a monster of a scope, to tell you the truth. I really didn't need anything this big in my shop. But anyways, that's it. I just wanted to make this video for you. Probably upload this maybe tomorrow. I'll put it together and probably upload it tomorrow for you, which will be Monday. Today is Sunday. We'll give a chance for people to watch the one that's already up there. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, good evening, good night. We'll see you on a computer near you real soon. And it finally, it's going the other way now. There it goes. And it's going back over here. And it's rocking back the other way. And it's rocking back the other way. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night.